Welcome back to First Light, the podcast where we explore stories of transformation, leadership, and innovation. I'm your host, Chris Keller, and today we have a special guest who's reshaping how legal professionals connect and collaborate. Gabriel Stiritz is the founder and CEO of Lexamica, a platform revolutionizing attorney referrals and legal marketing. Today, we'll dive into his journey, the challenges in legal marketing, and what the future holds for tech-driven legal referrals. Gabriel, welcome to First Light. There you go. Gabriel, I want to thank you for joining me today on First Light. I want to kind of take us back to the beginning of what inspired you to build Lexamica and what problem you were trying to solve at the time.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Thanks for having me on. It's good to be here. So there's a lot to my own personal, professional journey, and I think as far back as really is relevant is that right out of college, I actually spent 10 years working in nonprofit fundraising and building out an organization that was helping youth up in Jersey City, New Jersey. And two things that I took away from there. One was a love for building organizations, building businesses. I ran into Patrick Lencioni and Collins and Andy Grove, all of the great business thinkers who have written books on the subject, and realized just love working and building in organizations. And then two, I really found, and you get this in a nonprofit, is that mission matters. If you have a job where you're actually helping people, you can wake up every day and feel great about yourself. And even on the sucky days, you know that that suck is worth it because something matters in what you're actually trying to accomplish. So two of those things, which I did for, like I said, 10 years. And then from there moved into a CFO role in a plaintiff law firm working on the employment side. So for me, that was also extremely missional, just focusing on how do we help people? How do we help people who have been taken advantage of by their employers, treated poorly, underpaid, et cetera, and then also continuing to develop that ability to work on and build businesses. And then while we were doing that in the employment sector, and you'll understand this as a plaintiff injury law firm owner, we were taking turn down inquiries from large plaintiff firms all over the country who were getting calls from people who had employment issues, but those law firms couldn't handle them themselves, so they would send them to us. So I'd wanted to find a problem in an industry and solve it for a very long time. And when I came to referrals and just seeing how far in the past that was, that it was spreadsheet sticky notes. Literally, we were getting faxed reports from some of the biggest MVA firms in the country asking us for referral updates. I was like, okay, I think I found the thing that's so broken that even I can figure out how to fix this for other people. And so long story short, left that firm in 23, almost exactly 2 years ago, to start Lexamica to help solve the problem of how do law firms do referrals together from a technology systems service perspective, and have been doing that for the last 2 years.
So where did that entrepreneurial spirit come from, that, to see this problem that you felt there was this problem that was broken, to, hey, I'm going to fix this. And not only am I going to fix it, but I'm going to build this company. Where did that come from?
An itch that I had to scratch. I just, even when I was really young, I wanted to be. When I was really young, I thought I was going to be an inventor of stuff someday. And I think ever since I started in the workplace, the idea of building things, building companies, building products, and solving problems is just so interesting and enjoyable. There's something so cool about getting to wake up and realize that the problem you solved yesterday, that's done. And now there's a new problem that I get to solve today. And it just feels like a giant playground where every day is interesting. And so I think that was part of it. And then seeing something where it's I actually know enough about this where I might be able to make a difference to solve this across the whole industry. That was exciting. That was a little bit of the reason why this specific thing, but more generally, just a love of building.
Well, so let's talk about the 10 years that you had in kind of nonprofits, fundraising, law firm operations there as your CFO role. How did those opportunities, working with those types of entities, how did those experiences shape your approach to building Lexamica.
Yeah, I believe that most experience is cross domain. That if your goal is to figure out from every experience that you're in, what does that mean? What can I learn from it? Generally, as life principles, as heuristics that I can go and do something else with, you can really take experience from almost anywhere and apply it to something else. There's ways to misapply that, but in the nonprofit sector, raising money is like the greatest way to learn how to do a sales job in the world, because you're really just selling someone nothing. You're selling them a feeling. You're selling them do something great for the world, but I'm not going to give you anything in return. And so like you really learn how to connect with people on an emotional level, even on a spiritual level, and saying like, here's why it matters that you give something that you have to someone else. And that becomes easier when the pitch is give something and I'll give you something in return, more money or what have you, or value. So I think that was a big one. And then in the nonprofit that we were working with, there were a lot of business owners who are involved, who are donors to and I just rubbing shoulders with them and hearing their stories was incredibly powerful. I really believe that like understanding the stories of people who've gone before and have done the thing that you want to do is one of the best and most impactful ways of learning. There's a podcast that I absolutely love called How I Built This. NPR, Guy Raz. I see you're nodding. You've probably listened to some episodes. I think I listened to every single episode that Guy released for 3 years nonstop, and I just drank it in like I was in the desert, and it was an oasis, because hearing the stories of founders over and over and over is so different than reading a business book where this person may or may not have started a business and now they have a plan for how you're going to do it. But to hear the myriad ways where everything can go wrong and you can have a great business, everything can go right and your business can fail, but like the joy of the journey of being an entrepreneur is incredible. So that was all like during my nonprofit time. And then working in the law firm was really a lot of like learning the industry, seeing how technology was reshaping law coming in 2019, right before COVID, and then seeing how you had Filevine, Litify, Clio raising hundreds of millions of dollars, bringing cloud to law, COVID accelerating the transformation to cloud, and then AI hitting actually after we'd started Lexamica, but just like change after change after change coming to the industry and realizing like we're in this moment that's like as exciting as the beginning of the internet or the invention of the computers. Like large language models coming to law is as transformational as the internet coming to e-commerce.
My firm is, I think and hope and believe that we're kind of out in the forefront of technology. We've implemented a lot already, and one of those was Lexamica, but a lot more that we put in place. But so talk about building a company, because it is a lot different when you're an employee or working your way up through an organization to now CEO and having to build this company from the ground up. So talk about that kind of vision of the company that you wanted to build and take us through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's been really, really fun was, yes, I had the idea for this company, and that was coming up on 3 years ago, and started working on the background while I was at the law firm. But from very, very early on, you have this seed of an idea, like this is something that needs to happen. This matters. This is going to be a solution to a lot of problems that people have. It's going to help people. That's great. But to me, the more exciting thing, even than having the idea, is seeing other people see that idea and see the value of it and start to work toward realizing that. And even as recently as January, we brought on a new head of success, and to see the energy and the passion that she brings into the organization and like the vantage point that she can bring to run toward this vision of what needs to happen for law firms to be able to refer cases, for more clients to get help because referrals are being done well. And to see her not say, oh, I just want to like work for Gabriel, but I believe in the vision of where this is all headed, and I'm going to do it my way to contribute to making this a better thing. To me, that's like the most exciting thing, is where it's like it exceeds what I could have imagined from it, because there's people that are smarter than me with different skill sets, but they're coming in line with the same vision, and we all get to build that together. And I think one of the things that's like really fun is when it starts to not look exactly the way I initially envisioned it, but it's because it's better than I thought that it could have been when I started.
No, that's incredible. For those that may not know what Lexamica is, can you kind of explain what your idea was and now how it's evolved and how it really is solving problems for law firms?
Yeah, absolutely. But if you don't mind, I'll go back real quick to you asked
Yeah,
me
please.
what is the role of the CEO, and I think there's two main categories to it, and it's not about like being like the leader or like the face of the organization so much as is two things. I think it's making sure that everyone clearly understands where we're going, so that they all are looking in the same direction, and that they have a clear line of sight, like what is it that we're building together, because if people aren't going in the same direction, you get all kinds of messed up, right? And then the second one is your job is to make sure that those people have the resources to do their part of the job well. And the resources are the time, the money, the manpower, the technology, the training, the skills. All of those are various resources. But I think fundamentally it's just two things. It's like you tell them, where are we going? And then you say, here's the stuff you need to go there. And then you actually get out of the way so that your people can do that well. And that's like being a great CEO means generally stepping way into the background. It doesn't mean not doing podcasts or being the face, but like day to day, it's like you're really enabling other people to do something. So I think that's the role of the CEO.
Which is incredibly difficult, and to give up that control, especially of some baby that you've built and that you put all your blood, sweat, and tears and money into, and time, energy, and effort, and then to start kind of stepping out, let other people step in is so tough. And I know I asked you a question about Lexamica, and I know we'll get there, but I want you to talk about that. How is that experience for you? And now, kind of stepping back, and I love hearing that you have a director of success. That's awesome, or head of success. I apologize. That's super cool because it sounds like you guys are doing things differently too as you build the company. So talk about that.
Yeah. So what I have been really fortunate since I graduated college, I've worked directly for founders. So for my entire career leading up to this, I got to sit second chair and watch founders do things well, do things poorly. I was the layer between all the insanity of a founder and the rest of the company, and the COO role and the CFO role, whatever. So I feel like I got an unfair advantage of getting to just watch and see all of the things that I liked and all of the things that I thought that could be improved, and then and then when it was my turn to do that, to try to apply all of those learnings. And again, so much learning once you're actually sitting in the seat. Like, I do not downplay just the difficulty of that. Like, to be the person who's there representing so much of the company. And I have a lot of empathy for founders and for CEOs because of that. Like, you're the one out there and at the front of the V and getting all the stuff, both the bad stuff coming up internally and all the stuff externally, and it all hits you. And part of your role is just to be the punching bag so that other people can do their jobs well. But yeah, I mean, in terms of our own internal structure, I mean, I wouldn't say that we're really reinventing the wheel, just trying to draw on best practices. Like, head of success is a pretty typical role inside of a SaaS company. I think for us, because we are bringing to market something that hasn't been done as a service before. Like, success is probably the most critical. If you look at sales, software, success, technology being software as various functions in the org, I think success is probably has an overweighted importance for us, just because when we're interfacing with a law firm like yours, like, that's a brand new relationship for every customer that we sign. And so our ability to coach them, train them, help them understand what it looks like to externalize their referrals is something that I think I undervalued that on day one. I thought, oh, this is going to be great. Like, we'll create a product, we'll put it in people's hands, they'll run with it. 2 years later, I'm like, wow, like, that is like a piece of it, but like the ability to like coach and bring the human resources around the whole process is probably like 70% of it. It's just so important, because at the end of the day, we're all people dealing with people. And if I give you a complicated tool that you've never used before, like, what is going to happen? Exactly what anyone would say. But when you're the guy with the idea, you're like, oh, cool, everyone gets this. So I think that's a big learning from the past couple of years.
Well, and what's always so interesting to me is that, a lot of times we attend these conferences, we attend these summits, we go and we take in all this information, we see these cool products and all this kind of thing, but where it really lacks is taking that idea and executing. And so, be able to implement. And so many times I've seen that where there's this product handoff and then we're left to our own accords, and then there's just failure across the organization, and then the software, the technology just gets scrapped. And so, we've, similar to you, we've put in things in place, teams in place to vet the software, use the software before we roll it out to the firm, get the buy-in of a few before you have to get the buy-in of the whole. And then, have people who are trained on it, know how to use it, so that they're out front teaching and training and showing others versus everybody's like stuck to kind of figure it out on their own. So, but we ran into that problem a lot. It took us some time to kind of figure that out. And, but client experience is definitely everything. Let's go back to one question though, was what is Lexamica and what problem is it solving? How does it, take me through how this works?
Yeah. So real simply, for law firms that are marketing for their own cases and building brands, Lexamica is a way to offload any of those inquiries that are coming into your law firm, because you built that trust with the community, that are not qualified as cases for you. So if you're a motor vehicle accident firm, you're still getting calls about medical malpractice, premise liability, Social Security employment cases, you name it. Because you've built a great brand, Lexamica exists to help you take those and get those claims connected with the right lawyer, so that you can, one, provide a better client experience by not saying no anymore, and then two, generating revenue by turning those into fee-sharing referred cases. So it's not like that process has existed actually for quite some time, but like there's a lot of industry trends that are really leading to more and more need for referrals. And so we just created a way for law firms to do that more easily.
Yeah. For those law firm owners or business owners, actually, in general, who are out there, a lot of them, and I hear it. I've taken several calls this week actually from law firm owners that, haven't really implemented a lot of tech. They haven't used virtual assistants. They're scared of remote work, hybrid work options, all those types of things. In my firm, one thing that we've, pat ourselves on the back about is that we have virtual assistants, and we're 20 plus, we're worldwide there with that. We have embraced tech in a big way, probably in a much bigger way than a lot of firms that are much larger than us with a lot bigger budgets than us. So, what would you say to those firms that are skeptical about integrating tech into their firms? Solutions like your company, like Lexamica, to their practice. What's your advice to them?
I think that it is totally fair to be skeptical of tech, but optimistically skeptical, not pessimistically skeptical, right? So it's like, I think the wrong kind of pessimism is, I saw this guy on LinkedIn yesterday who said, I tried ChatGPT to write a brief for me. It cited the wrong case, and here's a screenshot, and no one should use AI. I'm like, okay, I mean, you can Google and get the wrong results too, but that's like the wrong kind of skepticism, where you're like looking for opportunities to not use technology. But optimistic skepticism, I think, is the right approach, which is there's a lot of new stuff. There's a lot of people that are selling a lot of stuff, things that aren't necessarily valuable or don't work as proposed. So like, vet it, make sure that it's real, ask other people who've used it how it's worked for them. I think that's a really big part of it. And that was actually when we were getting started, was one of the big challenges was when you don't have customers, it's hard to get your early ones in, because people want to talk to somebody who's used it. So I think those are good. And then making sure too that, like you said, if you're going to buy technology, what's your plan to implement it well, to squeeze the juice out of it? Because I'm personally guilty. I'm like a SaaS addict. I'm a junkie. I will go buy a new tech platform like every week because it promises me some new thing. I'll buy it, I'll use it twice, and then I just forget about it. And so I just have piled up subscriptions of all the cool like AI writing tools and email and calendars and productivity. And it's like, okay, like every couple of times a year I have to go through and do a spring cleaning because I'm a junkie. And so there's like a good middle ground where you like actually have a plan for how you're going to use this stuff too. And then not overwhelming your team with like a new thing every day. You need to roll out change on a rate that they can handle.
Well, staying on that topic about, there's just so much traditional advertising that occurs out there that we see, and so much of advertising, for the most part, is just word of mouth. And so what I want to talk to you about is, how is technology kind of shifting the landscape for firms or businesses that are looking to grow?
In so many ways, it's wild. I think that we're going through one of the biggest transitions that we've ever seen in terms of technology and social and marketing. And even 15, 20 years ago, advertising as a law firm mostly meant TV, radio, billboard, even yellow pages, still a little bit. And now you have access to the ability to spin up a brand overnight on TikTok or Instagram. You can still be very successful on radio, TV, billboard. You can do community based, like, if anything, there's more ways to succeed. And so I think on that front, like, it's important to know for you as a person, as a business owner, what do you want to succeed on? What aligns with you in terms of the way that you want to succeed? Like, not everyone's going to be big on social media and do a fantastic job, but like Josh Hodges is one of my favorite examples of a smaller firm. He's built this amazing presence on social. He gets a lot of cases through it, and he's like genuinely passionate about that as a form of marketing. Someone who's not isn't going to, you're not going to do the same job, but you also might be really good at a different form of media. So there's a lot of ways to win right now. And I do think that as consolidation comes into the market and more specialization between firms that are generally doing marketing or generally doing case management or generally doing litigation, which is a whole other topic, I think that because we're seeing consolidation and specialization in firms, like, figure out what it is that your niche is. Like, it's great to be a local attorney. In fact, I don't know that there's been a better time to be a local attorney, but don't make the mistake of trying to replicate Morgan and Morgan's brand approach when you are going to be in a smaller town, because that's not going to work. You're trying to take a big strategy and apply it hyper locally. There are hyper local strategies that work great, but you can't. You have to be careful of where you're drawing your source material.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As the visionary leader of your firm or of your company, and obviously in the space that you're in tech, where do you see the future of Lexamica, and what kind of, obviously, tech is always changing and growing. You've kind of always got to be thinking ahead. What's next? And how do we compete? How do we stay on top? So, what are you guys looking at? What do you think is next for your company as you continue to grow and scale and continue to serve law firms across the country?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things that we're doing is just keeping an eye on the macro trends, AI driving efficiencies, making people way more productive than they were before. There's a lot of movement with deregulation for large campaigns to come in on the case acquisition side. That's mostly on a referrals business. But our top level mission, and we're really intentional when we chose this, is our goal is to really move the needle on when Americans need legal help, making sure that they get legal help when they need it. And there's a lot of access to justice organizations out there, and we wouldn't categorize ourselves as that necessarily. But what we're able to do by connecting law firms that have brands with law firms that are more specialized in the cases that they take is, like, we're actually doing the easiest part of that, which is the client's already done the hardest thing, which is pick up the phone and call someone that they trust. Like, that's amazing. One of the firms that we work with is Ben Crump. He's one of the best known lawyers in America. How many people trust him? Or Devin Stone of Legal Eagle. He has millions of people who watch his channel every week. Those people have trust. And so what we can do is we can link, like, people doing the hard thing and reaching out to an attorney with the people who are going to actually handle all of, like, the cases that are niche or in a weird place. And so really, we're just focused on how do we do that more effectively? How do we make the matching even stronger? How do we make sure that we know which attorney is best for which case? How do we help connect more law firms with each other through the platform? So, yes, we're going to use AI. We're using AI already. We're building more sophisticated technology and better integrations. But to me, it's not about the how, it's about the what, which is how do we increase the rate at which, when a lead comes into Lexamica because it came to you, how do we do the absolute best job of making sure that that person, if they have a legitimate claim, get legal help? And that's what we're pushing on this year.
Yeah. So you guys, obviously you're having a huge impact. You're having an impact for potential clients out there that are looking for the best attorneys. You're having an impact on law firms. Can you share some of those kind of success stories that you've had, the impact that you're having, whether it's to an individual or whether it's to an organization?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to chop it up, and I don't want to sell too much, so I'll keep it kind of brief on our side. But I mean, yeah, we have had a law firm that came in, and they have a massive amount of brand trust, and they just weren't doing anything with all of the leads that weren't qualified for them, and they were able to book over $1 million of referral pipeline value in 6 months just by plugging into Lexamica and using our system to match those cases with new attorneys. So that's the one side. And on the other side, we have a law firm where they've been able to reassign people away from just the referral management component, which is pretty arduous work, getting updates from law firms. And they're way more efficient than they were. And they're saving a lot of time and energy on that and dedicating their team to others. And we've also got some brand new law firms that are actually launching on top of Lexamica, which I think to me is the coolest thing, which is that you've got law firms that didn't exist and they're looking at Lexamica and saying, I can build my entire business on top of this platform that didn't exist 2 years ago. Like, as an inventor, as an innovator, you're like, that's the coolest thing in the world when someone is like gives you that level of trust in the thing that you built. It's like, I love that.
One thing I always talk to guests about, and especially CEOs of companies, you really, as a CEO, showing up as your best every day, being the best version of yourself, showing up to really be that positive person for your team is so important. So, what's your approach to that leadership? How do you show up as your best version of yourself in a rapidly growing company that's, really found this niche and kind of, created a market now?
Yeah. I mean, that's a deep question. I mean, for me, the two things that are really important for me, one is my family. Like, I've got a wife, young kids at home, and business is awesome, but I try to take a very long view. Like, 50 years from now, that's what's going to matter, my family. And so just staying grounded in, why am I doing all of this? Well, it's because I have kids. I'm going to have grandkids. I have a wife. Like, that's why I'm playing this game. Like, the game is fun, but if I win the game at the expense of my family, then it's not a game that I'm going to play. And then my faith too is really important as a grounding principle for everything that I'm doing, and contextualizing that. And this piece of my life is not everything. And there's a lot bigger things that I'm participating in, and obligations that I have that are way beyond myself and my time and my resources. So I think that's one of them. And then, kind of internal to the business, one of the best quotes that I ever heard was from a CEO of a foreign exchange trading company. I mean, he's wildly successful, and he had this very interesting perspective, which is that from his, like, as the CEO, your job is a bit of a leveler. That your job is to say, like, when things feel really good, your job is to tone them down, say, well, it's not necessarily as good as it feels. And then when things are bad, to say, like, here, look out. And it's always like a longer view. Like, look, they're never quite, they're never as good as you feel, and they're never quite as bad as you feel. Like, just one step at a time, keep your eyes out in the distance. And I think that helps too. It's like, when you're an entrepreneur, or you're raising a young family, or you're trying to start a business or new job or whatever, it's like, there's so many ups and downs. There's so much noise. Like, you come in, you have a high one day, the next day, everything's falling apart. And if you don't have principles that you believe in, if you don't have an understanding of why you're here every day and a longer time horizon, like, it's real easy to burn out fast. And as a leader, you got to have those things to stay grounded in.
Yeah. Some of the, I'm sure there were some very early challenges in getting your product to market, and now getting it out there into people's hands to use. How did you overcome some of those early challenges?
There's no silver bullets. Here's my general principle though. Be really curious. Just learn everything that you can. Like, genuinely just try to understand whatever it is you're around. Just try to understand it. I think that's led to, like, more opportunity than just about anything. And always, always, always give more than you get. Like, when you're talking to a person, the mindset needs to be, how do I make this person's life better? How do I make a connection that's going to make them better? How do I give them some advice? How do I compliment them, if nothing else? Like, if you can just do those two things, be interested in what's going on around you, and try to give more than you get in every interaction you have, I just think that carries you so long, because then you end up learning a bunch of stuff, and it's like having a tool shed full of tools. Like, if you just throw everything in there, you just never stop buying tools. Eventually you have enough tools that you don't need to really do as much anymore. So you start to, like, acquire this base of knowledge. And then it's kind of the same thing with like, if you're looking out for other people, yeah, you're going to get screwed. There's people that are going to take advantage of you, of course. But what happens over time, and it's been so like magical to see. I'm at conferences now and I'll have people walk up and be like, wow, like you gave me this advice. Thank you so much. Or, hey, here's an introduction because you made an introduction for me 6 months ago. And like, you don't do that stuff expecting it, but like really practically to your point, it's like when you're always trying to make other people's lives better, they start to do that for you. And in an early stage company, there's not much better than having people who've got your back.
Well, I can't think of a higher note to end on than that. Gabriel, I want to thank you so much for your time and so much for sharing your wisdom today and your journey. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Real pleasure.
Gabriel, this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you for sharing your insights on the evolution of legal marketing and referrals, as well as your journey in building Lexamica. Until next time, keep shining your light.